Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. It might be not be morning where you are, but it's morning here. I'm here to discuss high school awards and an overview of kind of the tips and tricks to make your application better when it comes to the selection committee reviews. We have about an hour today, so I'll be going through some of the slides a little quicker than normal, but please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat if you want to. I'll give you a chance to ask more questions as we progress through the presentation. My name is Joel Dooley-May, and I'm the Assistant Registrar for Student Financial Support. I'm located in the University of Calgary, which is the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 people here in southern Alberta, and they're comprised of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai First Nations. City of Calgary also is home to Tsuut'ina First Nations, and then just kind of west of us is the Stoney Nakoda that include Goodstoney, Bearspaw, and Chiniki First Nations. Southern Alberta as a whole is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta and districts 5 and 6. What I really like to know is that the city of Calgary was built on the confluence of two rivers, the Bow River and the Elbow River, and the traditional Blackfoot name for this area is Mohkinstsis. So what we're going to discuss today. So I have some guests with me today. So I'll introduce a couple of our scholars that can kind of give you more feedback on kind of the responses they had in their mainly prestige award applications. Then I'll kind of introduce what student financial support is, what that is here at the University of Calgary. I'll give you an overview of the high school awards, and then we'll get it. The bulk of the presentation will be applying for awards and how. And then I'll touch on a few other options that we don't administer ourselves, but it gives you a highlight on kind of other options for award scholarships and bursaries that you might be eligible for. So with me today, I have two current scholars, current students here at the University of Calgary. I have Stephen, who received our Chancellor Scholarship in 22-23. I'm right, Stephen. Hopefully that's not a typo. I'm pretty sure that is. If Stephen could just put his camera on really quick and say hello, that'd be great. And then Evelyn is here as well. So.
Sorry, trying to get my camera to start here, but just thought I'd say good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm excited to share some of my experiences with you and hopefully help you all get some scholarships here.
Thanks, Stephen. And Evelyn. So I will be going to our scholars when we go through the application, and they can kind of provide an overview of the response that they had to some of the questions that we asked. So Student Financial Support is the team that I oversee, and we administer all scholarships, awards, and bursaries for undergraduate and professional faculty students. We also administer all financial aid for the entire institution. We look after emergency funding for the institution. So if you're a student and you ever get into a situation where you cannot kind of get through when it comes to financial aspects, my team can actually help support with that. And then we also administer our financial literacy program, which is called Money Smart, which has multiple different workshops as well as an online course that you can take. So high school awards, a quick overview. So in 23-24, that was our last full academic year. We gave over $24 million to University of Calgary students. For this entering fall, we gave out 174 specific entering students received awards for a total of just over $5 million. And the number of applications we received for awards for this last fall for entering students was 4,478, which is the largest number we've ever had. Our application volume is going up, which is great. When we talk about awards, here at the University of Calgary, there's really three that you need to be aware of. So we have scholarships, and scholarships, the selection is based primarily on academic merit. There could be some other criteria as well, but the first kind of gate to even receive one is academic merit. And for those who are entering, it's your admissions average. And so it's your average for being admitted into a program that you've applied for. Our second type is bursaries, where the selection is primarily based on financial need. So when you look at financial need, is do your costs outweigh your resources? And if they do, then you have a financial need. And then we have awards as well. So awards are kind of like a combination of the two. There's criteria that's more important than academic merit or financial need. It could be membership to a group. It could be location or region that you're from. It could be the high school that you graduated from. It could be simply that you're a non-smoker. We do have one award for that. I always like to highlight that in all of my presentations because it was created in the 70s, 1970s, and that's when people smoked all the time. But time has changed, so that's good. And then we have prizes, and prizes aren't applicable for this audience. Prizes tend to be when you're in your second, third, or fourth year, and it's based on the final mark on a course or an assignment. So we do also administer those as well. When it comes to the awards that we're going to talk about today, our main focus will be our prestige awards. So our prestige awards are our high dollar value awards, and they range anywhere from $45,600 all the way to $100,000. You do have to submit a specific high school prestige award application, and you may be required to have a supplemental application or an interview. The supplemental application this year is not needed, but there is interviews depending on what you're applying for. So if you're going into engineering and you're applying for prestige awards, they do interview for their community service and entrepreneurial award. So be prepared for that if you're shortlisted, and they may request an interview for you. There are deadlines for submission, so I'll touch on those a little bit later, but just be aware of that. So our prestige awards for fall 25, we have our Chancellor Scholarship, which both Evelyn and Stephen are recipients of, which is amazing. The total value is $60,000, so $15,000 per year over 4 years. Then we also have our Seymour Schulich Engineering Awards, which are only over 3 years. The reason why is because in the fourth year of engineering, most students tend to take an internship. So you're getting paid during that time, so you don't need a scholarship or award during that time. We also have our International Entrance Scholarship, and I noticed there's a typo here. It's actually $20,000 per year over 4 years, so $80,000 in total. Then if you're looking at business, we have a couple. We have our NLE Leaders in Business Scholarship at $80,000 or $20,000 per year. And then we have our Richard and Lois Haskane Legacy Scholarship, which is $100,000 or $25,000 per year. And then if there's any listeners that are going into computer science, we have the Kennedy Scholars Academic Excellence Scholarship, which is either $60,000 or $100,000, depending on where you live. If you're from Calgary or area, it's $60,000. Outside of Calgary, it's $100,000. And then we have our Ted Rogers Legacy Scholarship, and this is also for computer science, data science, or engineering, specifically software engineering or computer engineering. It's $100,000. It's our prestige scholarship, $25,000 per year over 4 years. So those were our prestige awards. Now, just a quick overview of our high school awards. So we call them high school awards, but they're for entering students who are coming with a high school average. They're the largest number of awards. We have about 700 different awards in this application. They range anywhere from $800 to $10,000. You're required to submit the high school award application, and there's deadlines for submission, which I'll touch on later. We do have one automatic admission scholarship this year, and that's our President's Admission Scholarship. It's $5,000 for any students who have get admitted with an average of 95% or greater. Our first round of admissions offers went out almost 2 weeks ago now, and so It is, if you do have an admissions average of 95 or greater, a note will actually be included in your admissions letter, stating that you are eligible for this scholarship. My team will start doing official notifications for this scholarship later this month, and we notify all the way through September. One caveat with this is you are required to maintain 95% or higher in your final admissions average. So, which is surprisingly easier than a lot of people think, because most students' grades are better in grade 12 than they were in grade 11. So that's a good thing. So now really it's the crux of what everyone's here for, applying for awards. I'll quickly go through the logistical part of applying for awards, and then I'll really dive into the application. So there's 4 steps to apply for awards, actually 3 technically, but for an entering student, these are the 4 steps that I would recommend. So first, you apply for admissions. Once you apply for admissions, you'll get access to what we call your My UCalgary account or your student portal. So log in, and then you'll be able to complete the high school prestige award application. That's step 3, and then step 4 is to complete the high school award application. Applications are already open, and one thing I just want to highlight is you don't need to be admitted to apply for awards. You don't want to miss a deadline, so make sure you apply. So when you log into your My UCalgary account, you'll click on My Financials. You'll see it on this is kind of what the student portal looks like. It's a little updated from now because you'll see different banners than this, but on the left side, you'll see what looks like a $sign, which is My Financials. You'll click on that, and then you'll kind of scroll down the page a little bit, and there's a section for awards and scholarships, and there'll be a red button that says Apply for Undergraduate Awards. Once you're there, you'll get to our application center. This is where pretty much you'll apply for any type of awards as you progress in your academic career. So the first one you want to look for is our high school prestige awards, and there'll be a red button to apply. So in this, we list all the awards that are available there, and yeah, then you can just click apply. So with that, I'm going to start going through the high school prestige award application right now. The things I just want to, even before you apply, you need to think about a few things, or you'll just be going back and forth into your application, which is also okay. So things to think about and to gather before you completing your application is any volunteer community service information you've done. So you need to think about the dates, what the position is, what the name of the organization is, because all of those things need to be entered into the system. And then any additional extracurricular activities like sports, clubs, part of student council, student union, those types of things, and dates, position, and name of the organization. You also want to note that there's a lot of our award selections are based on what you were doing in and outside of the classroom in high school. So things that we're looking for you to include are sports team involvement, volunteering, student club involvement, student council, affiliation with community organizations or faith-based organizations, those types of things. Please exclude employment, anything you were paid to participate in, or personal well-being activities. It's really important for you to work out a lot or to do yoga, but the selection committee won't look at that way. And employment, it's extrinsic motivation. There's some leadership pieces that you can include for employment, but it's not intrinsically motivated, or you wouldn't be intrinsically motivated for that. So please don't include that. One thing I want to highlight to include though is so let's say you're in a situation where you don't have the opportunity to do volunteering or a lot of extracurricular activity outside the house because you have other responsibilities at home, whether it is you're from a single family home and you have to look after your siblings every single day after school. There is value in that. There's really, really high value in that. So please include that. We want to know that because it's really important. not everyone has access to be able to volunteer. Not everybody has privilege to be able to volunteer or have this involvement. So we want to know that from you. So please include that in the extracurricular activity section, that you are at home looking after your little brother every single day, because there's a lot of value, and don't shy away from that. So just some logistics with extracurricular activity and leadership. So it's an older system that we use, but it works. But it is a little bit clunky. So I just wanted to highlight when you must add a record for each school or community group, as well as the activity type. But if you do it for multiple years, you just have to add it in the lower section. So each year that you're involved in, or if your role changes, like let's say you're on, I know Evelyn plays volleyball, so let's say a volleyball team. This one year you're just a player on the volleyball team, then the next year you're the assistant captain, and then the next year you're the captain, let's say. Those are what you would enter here. So over those 3 years, you had 3 different roles on the team. So, I know you just, in the application, you just entered your extracurricular activities, but we really want you to highlight some of them here. So we do have a community service statement, which is the first part of the application, or first really essay or long answer question that we have on the application. It's briefly describe your extracurricular activities, which demonstrate community service, leadership, and or volunteerism. Outline your contribution, time commitment required, and what you learned as a result of participating. That's the key part, and that's why it's highlighted and bolded here, is what you learned as a result of participating. Yeah, I'm not going to ask Evelyn and Stephen for their response for this, but the next ones I definitely will. So, so now going into the questions that our committee really reviews. So, what makes UCalgary unique to you? So describe why you chose to study at the University of Calgary and what sets it apart from other institutions in Canada. So we really want to know why you are studying at the University of Calgary. If you're from Calgary area, I know it's convenient, but there's got to be more than that to studying here. You can do your undergraduate at Mount Royal if you wanted. You could even do it at SAIT or St. Mary's. There's other institutions in the city of Calgary that you could be attending. So why the University of Calgary? And really, we want to know that you've done your research on what's available here and what sets the University of Calgary apart from other institutions. So, Stephen, do you remember what you responded to this, or give any feedback for the listeners and viewers here?
Absolutely. Yeah. My advice would be to, as Joel said, do your research and figure out what does make UCalgary special, because there is a lot that distinguishes UCalgary from other universities. One of the big ones that I spoke to was the entrepreneurial focus of the University of Calgary. That's something that we're very passionate about here, and there's various programs to encourage entrepreneurial thinking. So that's one approach to take. Another one is I'm in engineering, and something that the U of C does a little bit differently from other universities is we have a 12 to 16-month internship program, as opposed to several shorter 4-month programs. And that's something that I was really interested in, to get some more hands-on work experience while attending school here. So do your research, figure out what's special about UCalgary, and then speak to why you're excited to come here.
Thanks. So the next question you'll need to respond to is really kind of highlighting your top 3 achievements that you've had in your life, not just in high school. So what would you consider your top 3 achievements or activities? Please list them and describe the impact they've had on you and others. This is one that whenever I do an in-person session, students always ask me, what do I answer for this? And my response is, I have no idea. I don't know what you've done. This is really for you to explain. There could be, I could speak to my top 3 achievements, but I can't speak to yours, and that everyone is unique and different. So really just be mindful and thoughtful on what really resonates with you and what really made you who you are and the impact they've had on you and others around you. Stephen, are you able to speak to what you entered in this?
Yeah, sure thing. So what I did with this question is for each of the three, I tried to pick different domains in which I was impacted. So I have volunteered and been involved in my school community, and then also a sports community, and then also my church community. And I think by touching on each of those three, I was able to holistically summarize three very distinct and yet equally impactful ways in which I've grown over the course of my high school experience. And I would encourage, as Joel said, like your response is going to be very different for each person, and I can't tell you how to answer this question. But try to pick very distinct categories or domains that explain how you've grown recently.
Thanks, Stephen. So one thing that's required, or we want to know too, is we want to as well. So the question is this is a really simple question. It's really just a yes, no. Is your community service or an entrepreneurial activity part of a requirement at school? If yes, what were the school requirements and how did your involvement go beyond these requirements? To be honest, in the 5 years or so now that we've had this question, I've only seen one or two yeses in like 5,000 responses to this question. So might be something that we look at changing. This is something that our Schulich School of Engineering really wants to include. So, but yeah, so this is an easy one. I don't need one of our scholars to respond to this one. And then if you're going into Schulich School of Engineering, there are specific engineering-based award questions that I won't really get into the response to on what they're looking for, because unfortunately it's engineering that does a review and it's different people who do the review every single year. So I wouldn't be able to give you the best feedback, but there are three specific questions that are for engineering. So if you're not going into engineering, you do not have to answer these. So don't enter anything. You can just leave them blank. But if you are going into engineering, please do complete them. If you don't complete them, then you won't be eligible for their prestige awards. So there's three of them. What was the motivation to get involved in community service or entrepreneurial activities? Engineers are thinkers, makers, and doers. Engineers find solutions to society's biggest challenges. Describe one thing that you've done, seen, or read about which inspired you to become an engineer, and then briefly describe any recognition you've had or contribution to community service and entrepreneurial activities. If I remember correctly, Stephen, you did respond to these because you went in engineering. I don't need you to comment on it, but yeah, so it's yeah, and I think you even you were offered a Schulich Engineering Award first, were you not? And then you went with the chancellors instead? Yeah, okay. That's right. Okay. Okay. Back to the questions that the committee that I had looks after. Describe two personal and intellectual interests you will bring to the campus community. So what we're looking for is we want students, especially students who receive prestige awards here on campus, to enrich our campus community. So we want to know what two personal or intellectual interests that you'll bring to the campus community. Stephen, are you able to kind of highlight what you entered in this response?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ways to give back to the campus community once you're here. And I'll just throw out some ideas and some of the ones that I've personally been involved in my time at university. One of them is doing research. So last summer, I was doing research here on campus, and that was a way for me to learn a lot and gain some experience, but also give back to the university. Additionally, being involved in clubs and teams, and this is especially true if you're going into engineering here. We have some very strong clubs. Which provides, again, experience for you related to what you're learning, but also the opportunity to build community and give back to the campus. And then another way that I've sort of been able to give back is through residence and being a resident supervisor here on campus. So those are just some ideas on things that I've done over my time to kind of give back. And yeah, hopefully that inspires a few things for you as well.
Evelyn, what types of things did you enter in this question or respond to this question?
I'm not sure if my answer for this exact question maybe won me the award, but personally, when I was applying, I said that it would be like the sport, so that would be one thing. Just entering into like the dinos community, and then also at the time I was really loving going on walks. It was COVID, so I wanted to create a way to like develop the dino like for dinos to connect more across all sports. So I said I would love to make a walking group and go for weekly walks with dino athletes, and that was 100% true at the time. And I really wanted to do that. I never did do it, but I've been able to connect different dinos in other ways, actually through faith. So I'm like doing a little something different, but same idea. I just wanted to create connection across dino athletes. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Evelyn. So the next question is about entrepreneurial thinking, and I just want to preface this a little bit is that entrepreneurial thinking for everyone who's watching and listening does not mean starting a business. Okay, so University of Calgary is known as the top entrepreneurial institution across the country. We have the top number of startups and different things. There are people who start businesses who are students here at the University of Calgary, but entrepreneurial thinking is a lot more than that. So we do have a question about it, and it resonates with the university. So what does the phrase entrepreneurial thinking mean to you? Describe the impact it has on your life and the lives of others. We're not looking for the Webster's dictionary response to this. It's really, how do you look at entrepreneurial thinking? And if I was going to respond to this question, and everybody will respond differently, but entrepreneurial thinking is really looking at how you can make changes and innovate in everything you do when you look at a problem, or if you look at a situation, or if you look at anything. It's really being kind of thinking of how it can be different and where the gaps are and what you can do to make things better for others, right? So that's how I would define it, but everyone defines it differently. So that's kind of what we're looking for, and we're looking for kind of, it really needs to be, it's not something that you put in Chat GPT and it spits out the answer for you. It really has to be something that really shows a connection to you. Stephen or Evelyn, did either of you remember what you responded to this question?
Yes, yeah, I do remember this question. And this one's tough because it's a little bit general and it's easy to just talk very vaguely about entrepreneurial spirit generally. But as Joel said, my advice would be to tie it back to your own experiences and talk about the things that you have specifically done that demonstrate entrepreneurial thinking. Um, and I think that's probably a better way of describing the impact that it's had on your life is going through your own journey with entrepreneurship, as opposed to talking about other people's entrepreneurial ventures and like the impact that that's had on you. So you can go at it from different angles, but again, this is an opportunity for you to talk about yourself and your own experience with that. So don't make your answer too generalized would be my advice there.
That's great. Well, to be honest, every response that you should not be too general. It really should be specific to you and really highlights the impact. And you'll see that in a lot of the statements is impact. So that's a key reminder, is that you, in every response that you make through the application, make sure you define the impact that it's actually had on you and others. And that's exactly what we're leading to. Describe the impact that receiving a prestige award will have on you. We want to know the impact beyond just the financial implications that having a prestige award will have. What is the actual impact? Not just, oh, now I'll be able to afford to go to university. You'll afford to go to university, but what else? What else? What will that lead you to be able to do? What will that open opportunities? Will you now be able to do research every summer? Will you be able to, maybe you are in business and now you'll be able to, okay, I can really start my business every single summer and really work on that. And, or now you'll have opportunities to study abroad, which you wouldn't have had to before. Like, there's lots of different things like that that really, the impact of having the prestige award will have, not just now I won't have to worry about money as much, right? So, Evelyn, do you remember what you responded to this?
For me, again, it was largely related to volleyball at the time, so that would have been like the opportunity to play Team Canada, the opportunity to really focus on volleyball and not have to have a part-time job while I'm doing volleyball and doing school. Um, and then also being in business, I wanted to do like case competitions and be part of different clubs. So not having to have like the financial stress, it really allowed me to just like have more time to put energy into like other areas of my life that I wanted to during university. And then also it opened doors for if I would want to play the sport like more professionally as well over the summer, because you're not making as much as you would if you were getting a job over the summer. So there was a lot of different things. But yeah, again, keep it personal. So that's what I put.
And Stephen?
Yeah, I talked about the same thing, about how it would give me the opportunity to become more involved in campus, and then tying it back to that other question about how you're going to give back to the UCalgary community. And by having the scholarship and having a little bit of financial security, it's afforded me the opportunity to not work on the side and instead be involved in UCalgary residence, in the engineering clubs, and as Joel said, doing research on the side. And really speaking not only to that question, but to my own experience, that's been the hugest impact that it's had on me, is enabling me to be more involved.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Evelyn. Thanks, Stephen. The next is a personal impact question. So again, as I stressed before, impact again. Describe the impact you hope to have on the Calgary community following your graduation from the University of Calgary. I know, Evelyn, this wasn't in your application. Stephen, was this question in yours? It's a brand new question that I think just 2 years ago. So you probably both don't have a response for this. So we want to know, okay, we've heard about the impact that your we've heard about the impact the award will have on you. We've heard about personal interests that you'll bring to the campus community. Now, what's the impact you hope to have on the Calgary community following your graduation? You may not actually attend here, but maybe you'll have something that's a lot lasting legacy while you're here on campus. So we kind of want to know what that will be. So really highlight, maybe you're going into the medical field and you think that at the end here, you'll start a medical research company, or you'll be just a family doctor here, or a surgeon here, or something like that. Like, you really, it's up to you, but we just want to know the impact you hope to have on the Calgary community following your graduation here. So those are all the questions in the Prestige Award application. So there are some questions, so I'll get to those after. But some of the tips for completing your Prestige Award application, and then I'll let Evelyn and Stephen give any other tips that they think of, because they did receive a Prestige Award, so they what they entered actually worked, so that's a good thing. So remember, in your application, quality of the responses is key. So we want quality over quantity. So really focus on that, and be concise when you kind of define that. Really, this is a moment in time for you to really sell yourself. I'm not saying to be egotistical, but really highlight all the amazing things that you've done. I've reviewed thousands of these applications, thousands of, well, probably hundreds of thousands now in my time, and it's amazing. And I get profound kind of joy reviewing these and seeing what high school students are doing. Like Evelyn, I was an athlete when I was in high school, so all I did was sports, which there's lots of value in that, but all of the amazing things that students are doing to actually help others, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. So this is your moment in time to shine. So sell yourself. But we also want to know how you collaborate. So don't one of my colleagues who's always in our selection committee does not like to see I statements. So don't always say I. Try to use we more than anything else. But we want to know what your role was in that we, right? So and then again, I'm going to highlight impact, explain the impact the activities have had both on you and others, and watch word limits as well, because some of the responses, they do indicate what the word limit is. I talked about how our system's a little older, so sometimes it can time out. So make sure you complete your responses in Word or Pages, or if you use Grammarly, or if you use Quillbot to help you with grammar, please do. Don't shy away from using AI tools. I just wouldn't use generative AI. Like ChatGPT won't give you responses. We see those all the time. It really won't move you forward. Yeah, but you can use grammar. Man, right now my life wouldn't exist without using Grammarly or Quillbot. I use it all the time. So please use those tools. They're great. Before I go on the high school awards, I know there are some questions here, so I'm just gonna quickly respond to a couple that I see here. One asks about the Grant Gall Leader in Health Science Scholarship, and if it's part of the Prestige Scholarship application. It used to be. Unfortunately, they have suspended the scholarship. Our Bachelor of Health Science program has suspended the scholarship, so it's not available to apply for this year. It wasn't last year either. So they used to have gaps in the time that you'd be able to apply. You'd be able to apply for it 1 year, and then it wouldn't be available for a couple of years. But they're suspending it with. Unfortunately, I think they may be canceling the scholarship going forward, but I haven't had the final response on that yet. So, second question is, does filling in the high school awards application make us eligible for all possible scholarships, or do we have to look out for suitable scholarships and fill out each application? Here at the University of Calgary, for entering students, we only have 2 applications. So there's a Prestige Award application, which is for our high dollar value and renewable scholarships. And then we have our high school awards. So you just have to submit both of those applications to be eligible for all awards that we administer here at the University of Calgary for entering students. There's a question about when are scholarships normally given out? I will get to that later in the presentation. So that's some good foreshadowing. Question is, from my understanding, each set of questions corresponds with a different scholarship. Is it okay if there's repetition between the responses? For example, if you discuss the same activity in 3 different questions. There's no issue with doing that. So if one of your activities had such a profound impact on you, you need to list it in your extracurriculars, then you need to list it in your top 3 achievements, and then you list it as a personal interest that you're going to bring to campus, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to really make sure that it responds to the question that's being asked, and you really define that impact. And yeah, so there's totally nothing wrong with that. Do IB CAS hours count as a school requirement in terms of volunteering hours? If it is specific for your international baccalaureate, then it would be required a school requirement. It does not lower your value in participating in volunteering. You just have to indicate that part of it was. That's really it. It's not gonna have a profound impact on the review of your application. What makes a student stand out considering there's so many students applying? That's a really interesting question. It really varies. It varies. So when we review our prestige award applications here, I have a selection committee of between 9 and 14 individuals from across campus, and half of which tend to be academics. So they're faculty members from Faculty of Science, Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Schule School of Engineering, Haskayne School of Business, and our Faculty of Kinesiology this last year. But it really depends. So every committee member might kind of have certain responses that resonate more with them, and that's why we have such a strong minimum of 9 people on our committee, to really look at that. What really stands out, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, is you really need to define your impact and what you bring to the University of Calgary. So we really want to know what makes you different, what's going to make you stand out, and what's going to make our campus a better place by having you here. So that's what I would focus on if you really want to make yourself stand out, more than anything else. I'm just going to go through a couple more questions so we can move on, because we do only have another 13 minutes and I have a few slides to go through. So the question is, what if you have leadership experience that includes an honorarium? Would that be okay to include? Yep, that's no problem. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. 2 more questions left. If you took some gap years before applying, can you include volunteering that you've done during those gap years for your extracurricular? Yep, that's no issue. Just to include anything you have prior to your starts of studying here at the University of Calgary. If I'm not applying for engineering or business, which ones apply to me? Our Chancellor Scholarship, if you're an international student, our international entrance scholarships, and then all of our high school awards apply for you. Okay, moving on. I'll answer the rest of the questions later. So now I'm going to quickly touch on our high school awards. Again, so before I move on, there's one thing that I just want to highlight is when you're completing your prestige award application, one of the key things is to really complete your responses in Word. This is something I'm just going to give as a tip that can impact you. It doesn't matter if you study at the University of Calgary or somewhere else, is start creating almost like a database of responses to these types of questions. Because if you're applying for awards here, or if you're applying for an external organization, they may have similar questions. So if you can start, you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time you apply for something. By creating this database, by doing everything in Word or Pages or whatever platform you use, or if it's Google Sheets or Google Docs, or create that and create a repository of your responses, and you can just tweak them and apply for something else. There's a lot of funds out there, or a lot of opportunities for you to receive funding. You just have to apply for them, and why not make it easier for yourself? That's just a tip that I like to provide. And before I move on to the high school awards too, is the reason why I highlight the prestige awards first is because it is a little bit more rigorous to actually apply. So if you had to sit down and just apply end to end, you're probably looking at a couple hours to really complete an application for Prestige Awards, where the high school award application takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So please focus on your Prestige Award application first, and then your high school award application second. So in your high school award application, this is where all of our bursaries lie as well. So if you have a financial need, if you're lucky enough to not have a financial need, you do not have to submit this section. You can just bypass it by saying, I do not wish to enter my financial information, and then you won't have to. But if you are entering it, we use this application for all students. So the first question and really the responses that you have are based on marital status for the majority of the viewers and listeners. I'm assuming you're single and not married, but you might be. So please select the right status. And if you're living away versus living from home, because if you're staying at home, your costs are less than if you're living on your own. So that drives everything else. Then from there, it's really just fill in the blank questions. So please enter as much information as you can. If there's a field that has a dollar sign, please do not leave it blank. If it's zero, enter it zero. And for every section, remember that it's a total of 8 months. So if you're looking at rent, or if you're looking at the cost, some medical costs, we need to know what it is for an 8-month period, not just every single month. We use the 8-month period because even though some students study over the spring and summer, the majority of our students only study in fall and winter. So from September 1 till the end of April. So those are the totals we're looking for. Something I want to highlight too is be realistic. If your resources, for example, are estimated by an assumption, do not include them. Example is earnings from a summer job. Right now, you won't know if that summer job exists. A good example of this is a few years ago, there was COVID, and the shutdown didn't happen until March. So students might have applied going, oh, I have a summer job at a camp, and I've had that for the last 2 years, but now that summer there was no camps. So please don't enter that unless you are absolutely 100% sure. The other thing too is if your either resources or expenses fluctuate each month, just average it. So maybe you have a rolling cell phone bill all the time, and it changes all the time based on your usage, right? Just give an average of what that is. There's an area where you can have higher expenses based on extenuating circumstances. Remember, when you enter any information there, your extenuating circumstances must impact your education. Then the next part of the application is really just checking all that are applicable to you and it's your future career plan. I always recommend selecting all that you're interested in. You may have a tunnel and you may know exactly what you want to do when you finish your graduation and your career is laid out and you're only going to do one thing in your entire life. If that was the case for me, I would not be here today. I would be a writer, but I am not a writer. And I don't know if anybody could tell me that they knew what a registrar was before in their life, then I would be amazed, because I had no idea what that was when I first started university. But I know what that is now because that's what I work in. But yeah, just select all that you might be interested in based on kind of what you're passionate about now. The next session is about associations, societies, clubs, or organizations that you're involved in. I've highlighted some that are examples, like Boys and Girls Club or 4-H, or if your family member is a member of the Alberta Union of Public Employees, or if you have a parent or grandparent that served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Those are some of the examples. There's more than that. There's like 30 that you could select. All you have to do is check off whether or not you were involved, and then there might be a little bit of information. Like for example, the Armed Forces one, you have to say what unit they were in and when that was. That's just, but it's really, you can fly through this section and have it done in probably like less than 30 seconds. So Then there's a section on residence. We do know where you reside right now, but we want to make sure if there's been changes at any time that you do highlight that. We want to ensure that your address information is also up to date in your My UCalgary account, because this is where that information is driven from. And because we need to verify to ensure, because there's certain awards and scholarships that are based on the location that you live. So we want to make sure that you're not missing out on that opportunity. Then we also have awards and scholarships that are based on where you attended high school previously. So please, we need to enter this. Some students always ask me, why do I have to enter this if you already have my transcript and it shows that information there? Transcripts are not always as clear, and there's lots of students that take multiple courses either online or through a partner school or things like that. So we just want to make sure that we have the full picture of where you are actually attending high school, and we want to know grade 10, 11, and 12. So make sure you include that. When you're entering it, make sure you use the spyglass rather than typing it in. We have pretty much every high school, well, every high school in Canada for sure, the majority in the US, and it's a lot of international schools as well. So make sure you look for it before you actually enter it. And that's it for that application. It's really, really quick, really, really easy. Doesn't take too long. Please make sure you apply before the deadline, because if you don't apply before the deadline, you won't be eligible for it. So I highlight Prestige Awards always first. Remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about first you need to apply for admissions, then you get access to your My UCalgary account, then apply for Prestige Awards. The reason why is because the application deadline is coming up really quick. It's December 1st. So you need to submit that application, and you just need to submit it by the application deadline, right? So, and then the next application is our high school awards, which the deadline is not until March 1st. So you could apply today or you could apply on March 1st. It doesn't make a difference. And then there are supporting documents. The only supporting documents for our Prestige Awards, we don't want reference letters. We don't need anything else. All you have to do is ensure that your transcripts are with our admissions office by December 15th. And for our high school awards, transcripts, and as well as we do have some Indigenous awards, so you'll need to submit your Indigenous identification. So if you are lucky enough to be a recipient for an award, an email notification will be sent with the award information. Prestige Awards, we will notify you by the end of March at the absolute latest. Ideally, beginning of March or end of February is what I normally shoot for. For high school awards, you'll know by the end of April. We always do that because the admissions deposit is required for you to confirm your seat here at the University of Calgary by May 1. So you'll know if you're getting an award before you actually have to make that commitment. If you are lucky enough to receive an award too, the payments are split evenly over fall and winter terms. For example, if you receive the President's Admission Scholarship of $5,000, you'll get $2,500 in the fall and $2,500 in the winter. One big thing to note that you do need to be a full-time student to receive scholarships and awards here at the University of Calgary, and full-time is 9 units, or for any of our Alberta students, think of it as credits, say 9 credits for both fall and winter terms. I only touched on awards for entering students, so please know for your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th year, you can apply for awards each year. To be eligible, you do have to complete 24 units over the fall and winter, so that's an 80% course load. How much time do we have? I'm gonna have to fly through this. We're over our time already, but hopefully people will stay on. If you have to leave, please feel free to do so. I'm just gonna quickly respond to or go through a few options that I want to highlight. I want to touch on the Schulich Leader Scholarship. So anyone who's going into science, technology, engineering, or math that's not healthcare based, you potentially, if you're a Canadian student, you could be eligible for the Schulich Leader Scholarship. The way it works is that every high school or CEGEP across Canada can nominate one student from their school for this scholarship. So you should talk to your high school counselor if you are really interested in this. It's the most prestigious STEM scholarship in Canada. It's $120,000 for engineering or $100,000 for science, technology, and math. We have 6 recipients most year. It's 3 for engineering and 3 for science, and the nomination deadline for your high school to nominate you is January 29th, 2025. So you have some time, but it's definitely something to look into. For any of our participants here who are from Alberta, and you have an average in grade 10 of your core courses in grade 10, 11, or 12, you could be eligible for the Alexander Rutherford. If your average is 75 or above, you will be eligible for it. The majority of our students are, so just want you to note this. I'm quickly going through it. That you can apply beginning August 2025. So if you're admitted for fall 2025, not till August that you actually apply for your Alexander Rutherford. Stephen or Evelyn, did you get the Alexander Rutherford?
Yes.
Yeah. All you have to do is apply for it, really. Then I just want to highlight some organizations for external awards that you might want to look into. The first one is Universities Canada, which is they administer a bunch of scholarships. I'm actually on selection committees for some of them. Scholarships Partners Canada is kind of their little subset, but it's through Universities Canada, and they have a lot of high dollar value scholarships and awards that you might be eligible for. You just have to apply directly through them. Then I also like to highlight the Calgary Foundation, which is a philanthropic organization here in Calgary. They have multiple awards, scholarships, and bursaries that you can apply for. And then for Indigenous students, I always want to highlight Inspire, which is they have an application process called Building Brighter Futures, and apply through there. We've partnered with them for some scholarships and awards. And to be honest, every eligible Indigenous student who's applied through Building Brighter Futures here at the University of Calgary has received something. So it's a really good organization and good application to apply for. If you need more information, you could just go to our website, so ucalgary.ca/awards, and we have a section for government and external awards that gives a whole list of organizations that you might be interested in applying for. That's presentation. Went over a little bit of time, but there are some questions that I just want to respond to. Before I do that, though, is Stephen and Evelyn, just to put you on the spot, is there anything I kind of missed in your thought when you applied for awards, and what you think might have made you kind of stand out over others? I know you don't know what that actually was, but yeah, if you could touch on that just for a second.
I had one piece of advice for folks applying, and that would be to get your application looked over by 2 people. The first one should be someone who knows you and who knows your experiences and can say, oh, you didn't really speak to this as much, or you should go into more detail about this experience that you have. And then the second person should be someone who doesn't know you and can read over your your application, and see if it makes sense to someone who isn't aware of everything that you've been through. So that would be my advice. You need 2 people at a bare minimum to look over your application.
My thought is just, I really think that you should apply, because I know when I was applying, it was kind of like crunch time right before, kind of like it is now, and I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm the right person for this award. I went online, saw everyone else and all their credentials and previous award winners, and I really psyched myself out because I didn't understand how I could be deserving of the award. But as soon as I sat down and wrote everything out, I actually had accomplished a lot more than I thought. And yeah, don't be afraid to apply, because the money that you can receive from one of these awards is very substantial. So yeah, you got it, and I think you should apply.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen and Evelyn. Now I'm going to quickly answer the questions that I can now. Thanks for everybody for participating. You don't have to stay any longer, but if you want to hear the responses to these questions, please stay on. Yeah, hope everybody has a great day. So Sam asks, when it comes to merit scholarships, would you say certain curriculums are more favored compared to others? Nope. No, all curriculums get converted to a standard here. So it really depends on what your admissions average is when it comes to merit. So and those, anything about how everything that we, or the averages that we use are dictated from admissions. So next question, is there a limit of only 250 characters for the activity section? Any word limit will actually be indicated in the question. So there might be some spots where the system doesn't allow more than a certain amount. So please try to be as concise as possible though as well. I answered this question already. Said, what if you're required to have volunteering hours for the IB program, but you switch schools and no longer require them? Is it okay to mention it as a volunteering requirement? If you're no longer in IB, it's no longer a requirement of it, so you don't need to list it. You may want to say that you started volunteering because of it, but then now you're continuing volunteering because you just love volunteering, right? So the question is there a limit of how many volunteer positions you may state in your application? I think the limits in the extracurricular section is 5, but really this is where the quantity or quality over quantity really needs to come in play. So you really want to highlight the volunteer experiences that, 1, you spent the most time doing, 2, has the greatest impact on you. So please make sure that's where you enter it. So you don't want to enter every single, like, okay, I volunteered at the homeless shelter one afternoon for 2 hours. I don't know if that may have a profound impact on you, but I think you volunteering at a community group for months and months and months and a total of 250 hours, I think that shows a little bit more than that 2-hour snip of volunteering experience. What are the general requirements of scholarships available after attending 1 year of university? They vary, to be honest. When it comes to merit, we look at your GPA. So, but we have specific scholarships for specific faculties, specific involvement as well. So you would have seen in an early slide that we gave over $24 million and 5.2 million went to entering students. That means there's $19 million that's available for continuing students. So, but the general requirements tend to be financial need for bursaries, but then scholarships, it's academic merit, which is your GPA. The question is, how many government or external awards can you get? Like as stack on each other. Also, can you get the Schulich Leader Scholarship and Pathways to Medicine Scholarship? Just curious, or does it have to be revoked? You cannot get more than 1 prestige award. So if you get the Schulich Leader Scholarship, you can't have the Chancellor Scholarship. But you can still have the Pathways to Medicine Scholarship because that's stackable. Same with our President's Admission Scholarship. When it comes to government and external awards, you can get as many as you want. We don't look at it. So it's completely between you and that organization. They might only allow you to have 1 through that organization, or they might have stipulations that you can only have a certain amount. For example, if you receive the Loran Scholarship, or if you're a Loran Scholar, you can only have scholarships of up to $10,000 outside of the Loran. So it really depends on them. Question is it okay to mention religious affiliation and volunteerism? Of course, yeah. Faith-based organizations do a lot to support our communities. So it's perfectly fine to include that. A lot of our scholars tend to include that, especially if they are involved with their church or their synagogue or their mosque or any faith-based organization that they might be involved with. Just confirming the Prestige deadline is indeed December 1. I have seen some discrepancy with it, December 1 versus December 2. It's interesting that you caught that. Our published deadline is always December 1 for Prestige Awards. But if the deadline falls on a weekend, we will extend it till the Monday after the weekend. The reason why we do that is because if there's ever any technical issues, or we don't work on the weekends. So we need to be able to support students to make sure that they can submit their application by the deadline. So even any of our award applications, doesn't matter what it is, if the deadline falls on a weekend, we will always extend it till the Monday. So that's why you're probably seeing that discrepancy. So in the application, when you go through our application center, it should say, I think it says December 2nd, because that's the dates, that's the Monday after. Question about SAT scores, are they considered as part of, if they're considered for your admissions average, then they would be considered for their award application. So you'll have to check with admissions on that. And I know there's a recruiter that can respond to you on this. The question about applications are different. No, they're not different. They're all the same. It's not really, the high school award application is not really an essay question. It's just, you can put it bullet form. It's just asking about activities. That's it. There's a question of, do we need reference letters? No, we do not ask for reference letters here at the University of Calgary when it comes to award applications at the undergraduate level. Yeah, it's a major crux for me. Reference letters tend to be a sign of privilege, so we do not include reference letters. Who should we contact if we have more questions? You can email my team at ucawards@ucalgary.ca, and somebody from my team will be able to respond to you. That's again UC Awards, AWARDS @ucalgary.ca. They'll be able to respond. What do I do if after submitting there's nothing on the to-do list? You do nothing. If there's nothing, you'll only have a to-do list if there's something you need to submit. Last question I see here, is there an interview for Prestige scholarships? It depends. So if you're applying for engineering and you're eligible for one of the Seymour Schulich engineering Prestige awards and scholarships, they do interview. The other is if you're going into the Haskayne School of Business and you're in the top 3 after the selection committee is reviewed for the NLE Leaders in Business or the Richard and Lois Haskayne Legacy Scholarships, you will be invited to interview with the dean directly. Those are the only interviews we have. And that's the last question. And thanks again, Stephen and Evelyn, for being part of this. I appreciate the support, and I hope you two have a great day, and everyone who's listened and been here, hope you have an amazing day too.